Hey everybody, Icy Cat here. Today we're taking a look at the operator guide for the newest defender in Operation White Noise, Vigil. We'll take a look at his loadout, explore his gadget in depth, and cover all the tips and tricks on how to get the most out of him next. Vigil is a South Korean Special Missions Battalion defensive operator. He's a 3-speed, 1-armor character built for aggressive roaming, but can also be played as an interesting anchor under specific circumstances due to his gadget's ability to leave his position uncertain. But we'll get to that in a minute. First, let's take a look at his loadout. For a primary submachine gun, he uses the K1A. Technically, it's not an SMG as much as it is a compact assault rifle since it uses rifle caliber .556 rounds in the magazine. With 36 damage and a 30-round ammo capacity, it's fairly middle of the road stats-wise, though it does offer a decent enough rate of fire, and when paired with a foregrip and barrel attachments, has solid recoil management. His other primary choice is the Boss G12.2 shotgun. This is the first shotgun in the game that uses slug rounds instead of the typical buckshot that all the other ones use. That makes it do a very high 125 damage and will down a target in just a couple of shots even at very far ranges, but that first shot alone will still do significant damage. Because it's a slug round, which is just a solid bullet-like projectile, it doesn't have the same range limitation for damage that other shotguns have, and it also does not have the forgiving spread that the buckshot offers. You have to be spot on when you engage your target with this. The design is an over-under style 2-shot breech loading concept. That means you only get 2 shots before you have to reload. The idea here is high risk, high reward. You'll do godly damage even at long ranges, but your aim has to be right on target to hit, and with having to reload every 2 shots, you can find yourself at disadvantage if you don't manage to connect with your target. That's where secondaries come into play as a fallback option. Both are automatic machine pistols. The first of those is the C75 Auto. It has damage on par with the K1A, a fairly fast rate of fire, and 26-round capacity. But it has a lot of stability due to the improvised forward grip system it has. Using an inverted spare magazine creates an extra grip to control recoil. It's just part of the gun's design, so it's not something you can take off. His other choice is the SMG-12. Doing 28 damage with a 32-round magazine and an insane rate of fire, you can throw a lot of lead downrange quickly, but it's definitely not as stable under sustained fire compared to the C75. You'll also burn through ammo a lot faster with the rate of fire it has. A distinct advantage this one has is that you can mount more accessories on it, including a sight, either a red dot, reflex, or holographic. Secondary gadgets come down to a choice between barbed wire or impact grenades. I definitely recommend the impact grenades if you're going to be using him as a roamer. The ability to move rapidly while cloaked from drones is powerful, and with the impact grenades, he can open up those alternate routes through walls to get around quickly. So loadout aside, what does Vigil bring to the table that's different and unique? His ability to cloak himself from drones. He carries a mobile jammer on his back that hacks drone and enemy camera feeds and erases his image from them. This only works for drones and cameras though. He doesn't actually become invisible or anything. If you walk into the same room with him, even while his cloak is on, you'll still see him in person. On the screen, you'll notice the HUD gets these white marks on them to let you know the ability is active. It's on a cooldown timer, so once it runs out, you just wait a little bit and watch the meter build itself back up again. You can use it as much as you want, you just have to let it recharge if you do max it out between uses. You'll see a similar effect on the drone HUD when you get anywhere within a 12-meter sphere of Vigil. That's important to know because that can count through floors too. You could be on one floor and Vigil could actually be on the level below or above you, but as long as it's within that 12 meters, you'll still detect he's somewhere in that area. It's very subtle, but if you have your sound up and your party isn't talking over it, you can actually hear a beeping on your drone when you get within 4 meters of Vigil while he's cloaked. This might help you narrow down his general vicinity at least a little bit. There's a few other cues you can watch and listen for too though. First, it does nothing to mask sound, so you can still hear him moving around, especially if he's running. There's also visual cues you can watch for. While he removes himself from the image, he still interacts with his environment, so if he vaults over something or runs over something, you'll see it get disturbed, if applicable. Also, putting up reinforced walls or barricades or shooting at things will also remove his cloak. For instance, when he throws an impact grenade, he becomes visible. He can hold the grenade in his hand as long as he wants, but the moment the throw actually occurs, it renders him visible again. Of course, there's nothing stopping him from reactivating it right away afterward, but those actions will interrupt the cloak effect. I would also recommend not running laser sights on any of Vigil's weapons, or if you do, at least not on both of them. Even while cloaked, you can still see his laser dot against walls and floors, and that can give away his position. You won't see where it emits from on the gun, but you will see the spot that he's aiming it at. If you do want to keep a laser on one of his guns, just try to remember to switch to the other one while you're cloaked to maintain maximum effect. Drones that are hacked have their lights turned from red to white as a quick visual indicator that the cloak is affecting them, and you'll also pick up a couple of points that are tagged as drone deceived when you do affect one. Vigil will always show up on friendly cameras even while cloaked, but if Dokkaebi hacks them, it will show the attackers that he's invisible while cloaked, even if it's showing the defenders he's right there. So he's safe even from hacked cameras as long as his ability is turned on. There's also no difference in this regard between regular Defender cameras and Valkyrie cameras. Both react the same way. Visible while cloaked to friendlies, invisible to hostiles while viewing cameras. While his jammer does mess with electronic imaging devices, it does not affect Glaz's thermal vision at all. Even cloaked, he'll still light up yellow in his sights. There are, of course, some ways to counter him. Both Thatcher and Twitch can temporarily disable his cloak. It's really short though. After only a few seconds, he can turn it right back on again. And in the case of Twitch, you pretty much have to know exactly where he is to hit him, even though you can't see him on the drone. So while it's possible to tase him out of his cloak, it's very, very difficult to do. Jackal is probably the best way to track his location. Even cloaked, he'll still pick up those footprints that are left behind and let you know where to find him. Another great counter to Vigil is IQ. While he's using his cloak, the jammer on his back will light up for her to see. She'll only get a fix on the device itself, but using this, she can take him out through walls just like she can when she's counter-scanning Pulse. Dokkaebi can also be a secondary counter to Vigil, as his buzzing phone will also give you a cue where to look for him, but it's just the sound as it doesn't disable his ability or anything. Many other abilities don't really do anything against his cloak. Being hit by Zophia's concussion grenades, for example, don't disable it, even though he's still affected by the condition they cause. They don't force his gadget to shut off. Same thing with other types of area of effect things, like explosives, fire, or gas. He'll take damage as normal, but they don't disable the cloak effect. Friendly gadgets don't interfere either. Even if he's standing right on top of a mute jammer, he can still use his cloak normally and drones won't see him. Now earlier we were talking about how unique his shotgun is, and it opens up an interesting gameplay mechanic. Since it's a slug rather than buckshot, it makes small, precise holes with a penetration value very similar to Glaz. This means that he can also make those same small holes in castle barricades. It works best if you make a melee hit to the door first, and then place 2 or 3 of the shotgun holes inside the small area the melee hit left behind. Otherwise you'll have to spend even more shots making these same couple of holes, as it doesn't quite punch all the way through on the first shot if you don't. Then you can use this as a relatively safe murder hole. It's small, but you're highly protected behind the door, and you can safely shoot out. Of course, you still have to be careful of the gap at the bottom so you don't get your feet shot out. This works both ways though, and that same hole can be used against you to protect attackers looking in. Dokkaebi also has the same shotgun, and she can make these same kinds of holes in castle barricades too. Another thing about the shotgun is that while it doesn't pop trapdoors in one shot like other shotguns do, you can still open them up fairly easily. It will just take 3 separate shots now. So it's slower, but it can still be done. Also, back in the technical test server, people were able to use his shotgun to breach airplane windows for defense, but this ability has now been removed and he can't do this anymore. They tested it out and found it led to too much spawn killing on a map that already struggles with that problem in the first place. Now when he shoots the airplane windows, it just makes a very large shatter pattern, but this can be useful for blocking the view inside if you're worried about Glaz seeing in. He still can, but the shattered effect on the glass can at least make it a little bit harder for him to see inside very well. Vigil is a great roamer, and that's primarily what he's designed for. With 3 speed plus impact grenades, he can move around the map quickly. Paired up with the fact that he can't be spotted on drones while running around makes him really skilled at popping up where you least expect him. One other way you could effectively use him would be as an anchor. This does waste his ability to be such an effective roamer, but the first thing attackers do before assaulting the objective is drone it out to see where you are, and that's the one thing Vigil denies. This is especially useful in the last man standing type situations where the rest of the team is dead and he has to hold that objective in the final moments. That said, I do really recommend Vigil as either an aggressive or a stealthy roamer. Combine Vigil with a Pulse and a Kaveta and you have a roaming nightmare for the attacking team. That wraps up this operator guide for Vigil. Tomorrow we'll be taking a look at our next operator guide for Dokkaebi. Next week, I'll be covering Zofia and breaking down tips for the new map Tower and more. And so if you want to stay up to date on all the latest news, tips, tricks, info, and more for Rainbow Six Siege, then do please like and subscribe. Also, make sure you click that notification icon so you're alerted as soon as I upload new content. You can also follow me over at IceCat25 on either Facebook or Twitter. Thanks a lot for watching, everybody. We'll see you next time.